Hello everyone, I'm Sindhu Bhattacharya and with me is Mr. S N Murty. He's the Executive Director and Leader Smart Cities for PwC. Mr. Murty is obviously an expert on smart cities, and therefore my first question to Mr. Murty is, what really is a smart city? Is there a specified definition of a smart city, and do we really have any smart city in India as of now?
Thank you, Sindhu. I think there are, let me put it in a fashion that would be most understood by everyone. There are two parts to it. One is what the mission, the Smart Cities Mission India calls about. A smart city is a functional city which has got a sustainability, which has got a economic viability drivers. It takes care of the quality of life. Those are the components which are built as to make a city smart. But when we look at a city and look at the smart city definition, every city will have its own definition, own vision to start with. For example, a city like Tirupati will have a definition which is embedded within its own pilgrimage, the temple, the lakes, kind of a thing. So they will actually build a smart city around that. Whereas a city like Jaipur will build something which is around the tourism, which is around the probably the Hawa Mill, the old Jaipur side, and the technology innovation, which is the IT firms and ITS firms are bringing into the city. So every city will have its own definition of a smart city. The only place where they will merge together is the KPIs, the performance indicators that Ministry of Urban Development is putting for all the cities. Those will be the common factor for all these cities, binding them together and running for the smart cities mission.
So is there a smart city that we have a full city which is a smart city as of now? And when we say smart cities, what does it enhance? I mean, does it enhance the quality of life for people like you and me? Does it actually mean that there is less stress while taking urban mass transport or something? Is it something that that really focuses on the deliverables and other examples from across the world that you can give us, please?
Okay. I think this is an interesting question. Do we have a smart city in India? I think when we look at the various parameters of a city, if I break it down into a water or a electricity or parks or schools, colleges, transportation, I think in some cases few cities will have a better benchmark. They will be at the, if not at the world class level, they will be at the best in India. For example, the BRT corridor of Ahmedabad is really good, whereas if you compare with other cities, they are not doing well. So there are cities who have actually been able to create the smartness within their infrastructure. But if you look at whole city smartness, I think it's an evolving process. The smartness definition itself, the word itself says that it's an evolving process. People are actually, or cities are actually evolving and transforming themselves to become smart. Now, the other part of it is, what will it bring change in my life? Now, if you look at it in a different fashion, what is that I want to make? I want to have a change in my life by living in a smart city. Let's ask a definition ourselves. So, do I want to actually stay with my family 2 hours extra? Is that my goal? Or do I want to actually have 2 hours of extra with my clients? Or finally, do I want to have a better entertainment facilities during the weekend? Everything evolves down to actually few parameters that the city wants to do it. And that's where the entire smart city mission was completely driven by the citizen engagement. Citizens decided that we wanted to have, for example, a better healthcare facilities. So that's where the cities looked at a super specialty hospital, healthcare facilities, facilities for the old age care and all those things. That was bundled in. So citizens decide what is it. If I can add 1 hour extra in the life of a citizen while decreasing the commuting time, and you rightly said, can I have a less stressed commuting environment? Yes, that's what going to be a smart city, and that's where it's going to be a smart city definition difference between you and me. I'll have 1 hour extra for my client. You'll have 1 hour extra for your family. So that's what.
So give us an example of a smart city anywhere across the globe, 1 or 2 or 3. And from what I understood from what you've just said, this essentially boils down to good governance. So is it not implicit in the government that is managing a city to be anyway giving these deliverables without it being classified as a smart city?
Okay, so 2 questions. So let me look at the international perspective. Internationally, smart cities have been divided into 3 different regions. One is the American model, the second is the European, and third is the Southeast Asian model. If I look at the American model, the New York Times Square used to be a completely congested area with a lot of traffic and buses, cars, and all those things. They took a decision that I need to decongest this area, leave this area for the citizens, and they made it a pedestrian only or a vehicle free zone. So, and people now celebrate that at the Times Square. So that's what one smart city definition. So Washington has created a huge garden area in the city. So hence the city has a substantial amount of lung space. So there are cities in US and in the Latin America, for example, Rio, which is the world's largest and most functional command and control center, which is operational. That's where the entire city, smart city comes in. But if I look at the continent Europe, focus has been primarily on the environmental side of it, sustainability side of it, giving more life space and the workspace to the citizens back. The healthy lifestyle is the more focus. So hence the Amsterdam in 1970s, when they were highly polluted, they took a decision that the roads are for citizens. Then comes the cyclist, then comes the motorist. Okay, so that's how they define their roads. So you'll see a couple of cities within these European nations are completely pedestrian only. And that's what their definition of smartness is. Cities in Germany, they actually are very strong with respect to the renewable energy. They are all solar powered cities. Now let's look at the Southeast Asian. Here the population growth as well as a lack of land push them into a compact but high intensity and high rises. So for example, the city like Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, all these, they have compact area development and they have mixed land usage. That means I'm actually having a commercial space on the ground, then I'm actually having an office or a hospitality as well as a residential block. Yeah. So I'm within a 1 kilometer radius, I can get everything. I work, I play, I shop, and I stay. That's what the concept is all about. So that's where the cities like Singapore has developed pretty well. And I ranked pretty high: London, Singapore, Amsterdam, Barcelona, New York. So those are the cities. And if I look at from a different perspective, that the cities started delivering in India and started doing anything around that piece. I think the aspiration level of most of the cities is around the same level. They want to become smart. They want to actually emulate the models which Barcelona, London and Singapore has done. I think they're taking those bits and pieces, keeping that as an aspiration level benchmarks and trying to create a couple of projects which help them reach that level.
So what is the government's smart city mission in a few lines, if you can tell us? And is it focusing on the big metros? Is it focusing on the tier 2, tier 3 cities? That's my first part. And second, what kind of investments? But then let's come to that later. First, let's talk about what is the mission of the government, and is it the Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Madras kind of corridor that we are looking at, or are we looking at tier 2 or tier 3 cities first?
Okay. The India Smart Cities mission is very interestingly designed based on the urbanization in every state. So you look at the urbanization spread in a state and then define the number of cities within that state. So that's how the first bucket of 98 cities were selected. And those were actually not just the 98 were selected only on that basis, but they entered into a competition internally within the state. Remaining other cities also participated. How the administrative efficiency, the utilization of funds during the JNRM, Swachh Bharat mission funding, how many sanitation projects, and all those was compiled together as a first stage evaluation. And 98 cities were identified to participate in the challenge program. Now that was a phase 1. And very interestingly, some of the largest cities, they failed to qualify for this thing. So none of the MCDs in Delhi, they qualified for this. The NDMC was actually the one which qualified, which is a council, not a corporation. So that's how the process evolved. Calcutta could not participate. Bangalore could not be in the one of the first 98 cities. Thereon, the MOUD relaxed a little bit of guidelines and added a couple of more cities, which are the capital cities. So that's how the Bangalore and other cities got into the challenge. Now, on the mission components, let's put it in 3 different pointers. One, what is that mission? So mission is to provide a structure of governance reforms and create an implementation body which can implement these projects which are identified by the citizens and the stakeholders jointly. Now what does that mean? So that means I actually go into a challenge, prepare a smart city proposal which will target one of the areas in the city, I want to improve the infrastructure in that area, or I want to actually completely demolish that area which is useless, which is a wasteland, or area which needs a development, and I can unlock the potential by doing a land monetization and create value for the city. Or third, if I see that there is no place in the city I can actually develop, or I can take it over, then I pick up a piece of the land which is outside of the city and do a greenfield development. That's how the first component is the infrastructure development part of it. And
so it's not the so when there is a certain city that has been identified and it has cleared the hurdles, it's not the full city that is going to get developed. There will be patches that will be that'll qualify as smart city.
Okay, so let me put it in the same language as MOUD. These are the lighthouse areas or the replicable areas. So what we are doing is there are 24 essential elements which have been defined by under this challenge program, under the guidelines. So the city has to implement those 24 essential elements of smartness and ensure that these projects are successful in that area. And then then they move on to the next area within the city. So that means I need to have a project which is replicable, self-sustainable, which actually has hit the benchmark set by the citizens, right, and for the other financial bodies. So that's how the entire thing. So there is an area which is a small area which has been selected. Depending upon the city to city, the area changes. So one of the cities have taken about 300 acres, and another city has taken about 1,000 acres. It depends upon the kind of model or ABD, which is called the area-based development strategy they have taken. Okay. The other part is the PAN city. The PAN city is the one where the principle says that every single citizen in the city get impacted with that project. And there has to be a problem within the city which can be solved by using technology. Let's take a very simple example of streetlights on the hard infrastructure. Every citizen get impacted if the streetlight is not functional. Absolutely. So I do a full city streetlight project. Or the second part of it, I do a citizen grievance management for the full city. I include the citizens for the overall challenge and the process for giving feedback on the processes, benefits, and all those things. So that could be another one. So cities take a different perspective while doing a PAN city selection. So there are a couple of projects which are PAN city, and there are a set of projects which are for the area-based development.
Okay. Now, the Bureau of Indian Standards has released some criteria this month. It says elements of aspirations for cities must be taken into consideration while measuring the delivery of services. For instance, a city would like to be called a heritage city, a cultural hub, an industrial city, a business city, or a tourism city. So, how does this function? Does the city which is aspiring to be a smart city first figure out which is the tag and a single tag that it wants really for itself, and then work towards it, taking along all these deliverables, or does this come as you know, as a beautification of the city name at the end of the whole process?
Okay, so the entire process is very simple. It says that you need to create a vision for the city, which is about 15 years long, and then put a strategic blueprint, which can be then subdivided into goals and projects which are actionable and can be delivered in 4 to 5 years. So that means it's very clear that I need to identify the common themes running into cities. Now, how do I actually do a visioning of a city? I can do a visioning of the city. Typical example in a consulting model is you need to take the strengths of the city. As soon as I say strengths of the city, it is going to be a heritage city. It's going to be for example, Varanasi is a temple town, the oldest living city in the world. Plus, they have these artisans and everyone participating in that. It's a gateway to the Buddhist circuit. So it has everything in mind. So now I need to include all those elements as part of the visioning exercise, because strength is, and the vision has got the second component is, what do I aspire to become? Should I make Varanasi as the Shanghai? Obviously not. So that citizens need to say that, what am I moving Varanasi from today to next 15 years? What is the journey I want to take? There, very interestingly, citizens are asking for simplification of various processes, ensuring that there is decongestion, I have much more safety, I have reliable infrastructure available to me, and what you call is a good governance in the process. So that's where the breaking down of vision into a strategic themes, and then the goals are happening.
One or two last things that I would like to ask you. One, what is the public versus private sector participation and investment required in this, and when do we see the first smart city under this project actually come up?
Okay, so the Government of India guidelines, again, it has a lot of clarity in that. There is a smart city fund, which is a grant, which is given by the central government, and equal amount of money, which is 500 crores, each have to be given by the state and the center. So that's a grant. So about 1,000 crores is a grant which comes. Besides that, this is the first time where Government of India is saying pool all the schemes and programs which are from central government, state government and the city into this project. For example, if it is a housing project, fund is allocated for the city, it has to be pooled into this. So that's the convergence part of it, and actually increases the size of the project. Then whatever is left is where you need to go into the market asking for a debt or a private party. In cases where cities wants to do a township, parking management, or they're looking at innovative models, they're going for a private sector participation. And there is a substantial amount of private sector money which is being sought in the first 60 cities. Now, the last very quick one, I think the projects have already gone live. June of last year, the first set of 200 plus projects were inaugurated by the Prime Minister. So I think the clock has started ticking for everyone to participate in this challenge.
The absolute last thing that I, as a citizen, or any of us would like to know, what does it mean for a citizen in terms of payment for services, user charges? Does it mean that I have to pay more for the same amount of service that I was getting earlier, or not getting earlier, or patchy service? Does the user charge go up?
Okay, so I think the answer lies true in a very simple way. If I get a better quality of service, then citizens are willing to pay for it. But the process is like this: citizens will be asked before any levy of user charges. The program is completely driven by the citizens. If there is any additional user charge or a betterment tax or a betterment fees, it has to be decided by the citizens, and they will vote for it. That's what is the whole process all about.
Well, then it seems that we'll soon have a city comparable to London or Singapore or Barcelona or New York in India. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Mr. Murty.
Thank you, Sidhu.